Today's topic is all about sleep and how important it is for us and just how much we should take it seriously. Today, I'm very, very, very honored to have a wonderful guest, Chhavi, who is a sleep coach professionally. Hi, Chhavi.
Hi,
Mm.
Atul. I'm thrilled to be here, and I'm really excited to dive deep into sleep and everything that it's connected to. So, just happy to be here, and would love to first of all get to know a little bit about you and your sleep. What's your relationship like with it?
Sleep for me and my journey with it has been very much up and down. And I think that's probably one of the best ways to learn why it's so important. So I neglected sleep terribly. In my 20s and my 30s, it was all about working hard, playing hard. And the sleeping part of it just sort of got forgotten. And over, I think, a decade, I was doing 18-hour days on average, sometimes 72 hours nonstop, which effectively meant my entire sleep rhythm got destroyed. The circadian rhythm was absolutely non-existent. And it got to the stage where I had to take medicines to sleep. That led to further issues because taking proper medications for sleep has a serious impact. And I was taking for around 6 months. It reached a stage where I actually collapsed at work and was taken to hospital. Um, and therein started my journey and my focus on sleep and its importance. So from that point on, I regularized my sleep pattern. I made sure I slept on time, woke up on time, and life changed. And throughout that journey, I saw the impact of sleep on my gut health, my ability to uh, handle stress and all the complexities of life, my ability to recover from injuries, my ability to build muscle. So the importance of sleep I've seen this effectively. I mean, it's 360. And I wish I'd had a sleep coach those 10, 20 years ago. So speaking of, I mean, I'd love to hear about some of the stories, and if you can share some of the clients that you've had and the kind of impact you've had on their lives.
The transition that you've mentioned, uh, how you were living a life that was fast, full of stress. You were always on the go.
Yeah.
And from there, you reached a tipping point. And from that tipping point, you realize that what it means to cut on sleep.
Yeah.
You saw suffering in so many ways because of sleep loss. And then you started to change your own life.
Yeah.
You've really built your life around your sleep. So this entire transition is extremely common for anyone who is trying to build a better life around sleep. And most people, uh, they will only change their sleep, really reform it till that once they reach that point where it has really gone for a toss,
Until it hurts.
till it hurts. Like in Hindi, we have this saying, "Lato ke bhoot baaton se nahi mante."
Yeah.
So that applies to every single person who's had a tough time with sleep,
Yeah.
till the point that sleep loss doesn't make
Impact you.
us suffer.
Yeah.
It doesn't impact every cell of the body.
Yeah.
Most people don't change their sleep habits. That being said, uh, it's also true that right from day one, when you start to change your sleep habits, you start to see the
Yeah.
benefits as well. So the whole journey of changing your sleep, it can be full of suffering, it can be painful, but it can also be equally rewarding if you start to take the right measures.
What are some of those benefits? I mean, the quick benefits we're talking about. What have you seen with your clients? The things that perhaps we don't believe will happen, but you've of course seen it with your clients. So give me a
Mm.
couple of examples of that.
So I'll share with you the different ways in which transformations have happened. Some happen quickly within one night of better sleep, others take a longer time.
Right.
I once had a client, she was an investor who was not able to generate enough sleep. So her sleep duration by default was around 5.5 hours. And you could see on her face how much distressed she was in. But over 2 or 3 weeks of working on her own sleep, when she eventually reached a mark where she was covering a good 6.5 hours of sleep, 7 hours of sleep, her expression changed. Like, you can visibly see that change in a person's face when they have slept better, and even when it has been just 1 more hour of sleep.
Yeah.
So that's the first change you will notice in somebody who's starting to sleep better.
I think that's something really powerful to say, that just 1 hour, a difference of 1 hour has a tremendous impact. Like, we don't think about एक घंटा और इससे क्या फर्क पड़ेगा, but it has a huge impact.
That's true. In fact, if we look at what happens with that 1 hour of sleep inside the body,
Yeah.
how much it changes our health. It's so beautifully reflected by this study I was reading about how getting just 1 hour more of sleep can reduce the risk of type 2 diabetes
Yeah.
by 12%.
Yeah.
And that's a big margin
Yeah.
by just, allowing yourself to sleep fully and making sure sleep gets covered.
That's what I find, I wouldn't say astonishing because I made the same mistake, but that's certainly something I want a lot more people to be aware of, that there's so many positives to sleeping well. You recover well, your mental acuity goes up,
Right.
your ability to recover from injuries, your ability to build muscle, all the things we've talked about already. These all, I mean, your skin improves, your gut health, which is so, so important. Your gut health improves. And then there's the negatives. If you don't sleep well enough, 6 or 7 chronic diseases become very, very likely to, for you to suffer from diabetes, which you've mentioned, to cardiovascular issues. Even me personally speaking, I led a life of complete discipline. So I was the guy asleep at 10, after I'd corrected myself, and up at 5:30, yoga, training in the morning, having a very fixed time to eat my meals, everything that's related to, without knowing at that time that there's something called the circadian rhythm, which when I first read it, I thought that sounds like something from an alien movie, or, it's just, there's something,
Mystical.
yeah, something about that word. So I didn't know about that terminology back then, but correcting all of these things just gave me just tremendous benefits in my ability to lead my life and to be able to achieve my goals. When you did the reverse of that, I had all the negative impacts coming. I couldn't handle stress. I couldn't respond. Now, fast forward, sort of getting married and having kids, a kid so far, one kiddo. All of those routines just went upside down. I just couldn't sleep at 10. I couldn't get up at 5. And the impact of life became much harder to handle in terms of getting my sleep cycle readjusted. And I spent 3-4 years out of rhythm, to the extent that, I measure all kinds of things in my blood. I check my hormone levels, I check enzyme levels, to understand before something happens what's actually happening. So I saw certain enzymes just going through the roof, which are precursors to cardiovascular issues and effectively the heart problems. So the things we're talking about, I have very literally experienced, to which I then had a conversation with my wife, and I said, we need to fix this. We need to get back to sleeping at the right time, and we need to manage everything else differently. So we put in an effort, she and I both, and in 2 months of sleeping correct, waking up correct, so the enzyme levels came back to normal, and all of a sudden, any risk I had associated with cardiovascular or heart problems has now disappeared. So I just want to, these are personal experiences that I've gone through, and I wished to share. Of course, from your perspective, you've had clients who have had similar kinds of issues, and I want to understand a little bit from you about clients who have perhaps had gut issues or skin issues or performance issues, whatever it may be, that sleep has helped with.
So just the way that you've seen that change in enzyme levels, or in the way that your body is functioning in terms of metabolism or recovery.
Yeah.
A lot of times, just by fixing sleep, you are able to tap into the body's healing processes in the most optimum way possible. A lot of people rightly say that sleep is the body's pharmacy, which means that all the medicines, we've had them within us. We've got an immune system that's so well equipped by design. But the only way that we can truly access all of that is when we sleep well. So that happens by itself. Even while we coach clients through sleep coaching, a lot of times we never discuss issues related to digestion or
Yeah.
metabolism, like you know issues like constipation, acidity, gas, which are really common.
Yeah.
We we never pick them up. Our focus is only on sleep and how to make that better. But after 4 5 weeks of working on sleep, our clients mention, oh, I stopped being constipated and I feel lighter, I don't feel bloated.
Yeah.
And this happens just from improving sleep, making it more regular, just really listening to your own circadian rhythm on a more subtle level. So there's a direct correlation between how is sleep going to help with your digestive system. And there's a really fascinating interpretation of this in Chinese medicine.
Okay.
So according to Chinese medicine, during the night time when we are asleep, our organs, specifically the metabolic organs like pancreas, liver, gallbladder,
Yep.
they absorb all that energy within
Mm-hmm.
and they use it for restoration.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say if your stomach, your intestine, throughout the day, it's pushing out energy to digest food, absorb food. In the night, it tends to retain that energy and use it for recovering itself.
Wow.
So during the sleep phase, when we let our organs rest, that's actually the core to solving a digestive difficulty that's recurring, something like constipation,
Yep.
acid reflux, or um, even bigger gut related issues. All of them will start to get better if you allow your body to generate sleep the way it wants to.
Even something which I picked up on and I realized the ability of the gut to absorb nutrients and minerals is, enhanced 10x if you're sleeping right. I mean, I spent about a year in the gym in my early days, built up a fantastic amount of strength, but I couldn't build muscle mass, which is what I wanted. I wanted to get bigger. I weighed around 70, 71 kgs, and that remained the same. I could lift a stack of weights, but I just couldn't put on weight. I'm an endomorph by design, so I'll naturally stay lean. When I understood the macros of food, of course, I changed my training routine to some degree, but the focus on sleep just, it transformed me. I went from 70 to 85 kgs.
Wow.
And that was straight lean muscle mass. There was no fat there. And when I sort of analyzed and understood it further, it was because my body was able to recover better, so I could train harder, push harder, but also my gut was able to absorb the protein, the macros that I was putting into my body, and get the maximum impact of absorption. So if we're training hard and we're not able to absorb, all we're doing is we're putting a hell of a lot of stress on our kidneys and the liver as well. So if you are able to sleep well and you're able to absorb your nutrients and the minerals and everything you're pushing in to build that mass, sleep plays such a vital role, and that digestive system and the ability to take in everything you're putting in is also a positive impact of sleeping well.
Completely. In fact, if you look at this entire transformation, at the core of it is probably how growth hormone levels have changed for you. If you meet a bodybuilder who is not sleeping well, he's most likely going to be frustrated with the fact that he's not gaining muscle the way he wants to. That's also the reason why now a lot of professional bodies that manage bodybuilding events, even the Olympic Committee, they're very specific about sleep and circadian alignment, and also equally specific about growth hormone production. So when we are asleep is when we are generating 60 to 70% of our entire growth hormone
Wow.
levels.
That's amazing.
For a bodybuilder or an athlete, that is crucial.
It is.
Because there is no other source of growth hormone that can be legally taken.
Yep.
Like competitive sports persons cannot take growth hormone from outside because it's a doping agent. So in their psychology, it's ingrained that you need to sleep better because within deep sleep, that specific stage of the sleep cycle is when growth hormone production is at its peak. So to leverage that is extremely important for building lean muscle mass.
Yeah.
And also for losing body fat, which is a crucial component for a bodybuilder's career and
Yeah.
in general as well.
Even I think your testosterone levels and boosting those, which for a male in terms of life in general and in terms of weight training and bodybuilding, testosterone plays a key role. And again, you're sleeping right, you're doing the right things. Those levels are elevated, which is effectively what we want for as long a time as possible. Because as you get older, testosterone levels naturally start falling. Even melatonin, which is, if I'm not wrong, a hormone which is produced from the pituitary gland, I think it's the pineal gland.
It's the pineal gland.
Yes, the pineal gland.
Yeah.
That is there to help us get into a state of relaxation and falling asleep. And as we get older, that just starts falling naturally as hit each decade, 20s, 30s, 40s. Tell me a little bit about the role of melatonin and how you understand its impact on our sleep cycle.
So melatonin is a human hormone, which means it's produced in all of us. What makes it so important from a sleep perspective is that if your body does not have a threshold quantity of melatonin, you will never be able to fall asleep.
Right.
So that that tipping transition that happens from wakefulness to sleep.
Yeah.
For that to happen, you need a certain amount of melatonin every night.
Yeah.
And that's also the reason why when you're not able to generate enough of it, you cannot fall asleep.
Yeah.
So from a sleep point of view, having healthy levels of melatonin at night is crucial if you want to fall asleep, if you want to stay asleep.
And the timing of it's very important as well. So when we're naturally producing melatonin, if you wish to supplement or fill up that gap that you're talking about, you also have to time it right. So it's not a case of taking melatonin at 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, when you want to fall asleep. When the body's at its peak of naturally producing melatonin, that's the time you sort of supplement if you need to, and then you can induce sleep in the best possible way.
That's true, and you've raised a very relevant observation. A lot of people take melatonin supplements at a time when it's not in line with the melatonin production of the body.
Yeah.
Usually, melatonin levels start to increase from 7 p.m. onwards. So from 7 p.m. to 12 a.m., there's a linear rise in melatonin. Then from 12 to 2, it stays at a plateau, and then 2 onwards, it starts to drop.
Reduce. Yeah.
So if a person takes a melatonin supplement around 10 p.m., it's going to add to the sleep pressure that's already building up.
Yeah.
So the supplement will be beneficial at that particular time window. But if the same supplement is taken at 3 a.m.,
yeah, it's useless.
It's useless because melatonin that's being made by the body is already dropping. So what you're taking from outside is not going to generate the same amount of sleep pressure.
I mean, going back to, it's really important to have this conversation. Going back to when I had my severe and serious sleep issues, I was taking pharmaceutical grade medicines, which are prescribed in the UK and are not natural or chemical based. So when I understood what melatonin does and the fact it's something that we're naturally producing, so it's not a sleeping tablet, it's not a pharmaceutical grade product, it's something that we're naturally producing. And like you rightly said, and I think you put it really well there, there's a gap between what we're producing and what we need.
Right.
That gap needs to be filled up, basically, to ensure that you have the best possible sleep. So I learned that about melatonin and I started taking it. I also found that timing is very important. So again, you've talked about the linear production of melatonin. from my understanding and its connection with the circadian rhythm, as nightfall starts, you will naturally start producing melatonin. That's the induction point. It's for me. I found my peak to be happening around 10 p.m. So I would take it at 9. So wait for about half an hour for sort of that effect to fully take place, and then be ready to sleep at 10 p.m. With these kinds of supplements, do you suggest that one should take it when they want to fall asleep, or is there some kind of an approach or a program or a plan that they should be following?
So, with respect to melatonin specifically, one thing that any consumer should understand is that, first of all, it's not a medicine.
Yeah.
It's a supplement. Um, that being said, you can take it whenever you feel you need support with sleep, because it's also non-addictive in nature,
Oh yeah.
which is something a lot of people don't know about.
Yeah.
So a lot of countries um, have accepted melatonin as an over-the-counter supplement,
Yes.
as has happened in India as well. So to use, it's a safe supplement. It's not. It does not create side effects in the way that medicine would be doing. When is it a good idea to use melatonin as a supplement? Um, is when it's one of those nights when you're not able to sleep for any reason. Within a worst case scenario where nothing else is working out, to take a supplement is a safe and practical solution that ensures you at least get a good night's sleep. What we know from research is that if you use melatonin occasionally for a year, there are no real side effects. Occasionally, side effects happen, but they're not as frequent as other supplements or medicines would bring about.
Right.
So, regular use when it's required is okay. And other than that, what we know from experience is that to not rely on it as a crutch to enter into sleep. That's important. Even if you are occasionally taking melatonin supplements, you should still have the ability to induce sleep. So that innate ability to access your body's melatonin should be healthy. It should be present. And only in one of cases, if you feel that you are not able to generate sleep for any reason, then it's fine to take up a supplement.
See, like it for me, and from a personal lifestyle point of view, I have a super active life. So I'm up early, I'm training early. I have obviously multiple businesses to run. I have a little kiddo to look after. And in the evenings, I've started now playing sports again. So I used to be a professional, well, semi-professional tennis player. And I've taken up now racket sports again in the evenings. And the days I'm playing, sort of 6 to 8 or 8 to 10 in the evening, I find it tremendously difficult to fall asleep. And I mean, my understanding of it is, and of course you'll know this better than me, the kind of cortisol levels being through the roof, adrenaline's also, of course, at some point being produced. For those to break down and for things to come back to normal takes hours. So it's kind of harder for me to fall asleep on those days than it is on the days I'm not playing sports. That's one time which I can use the word I rely on melatonin, because I do. It helps me get into sleep at the right time. The other times are when I'm traveling and I'm flying around in different time zones, setting my time zone with the new time zones. I need a bit of help in that, so I'll tend to supplement at those times. But I think, like you rightly said, it's something to help us achieve a sleep rhythm. It's not something we need to rely on as a sleep rhythm, if that's the right way to put it.
Yes, you've summed it up perfectly. I feel another aspect of its usage, which I've observed with a lot of people, is that melatonin will help you to create a system.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're in a state of equilibrium where you're sleeping on time. And if you have that sort of a lifestyle where in the evening you have to go from a high stress activity into sleep, to bring in melatonin at that point is is safe, and it's actually a healthier approach in the short term.
Yeah.
Because you want your body to wind down faster, and that's also where melatonin will help a person out the way that it has helped you. Even there, I think you've been so conscious of your melatonin consumption. A lot of people are not. So for anyone who's out there thinking of adopting melatonin as part of routine, it's so important to uh, look at the concentration of the melatonin that has
Absolutely.
also been
Yeah.
taken up.
Yep.
Usually the body requires only 1 to 5 mg coming from outside, and that's enough to generate enough sleep pressure to enter into sleep. A lot of times when people start taking 10 mg, 15 mg, that's an excess, and you don't want an excess of melatonin either.
Yeah.
So to really find that sweet spot for yourself, how much melatonin do you really require, is something that will ensure that your relationship with it remains healthy and it does not have side effects.
No, of course. I mean, I guess the word is experimented so much on this that there are times when 3 mg has been enough. There's been 5, sometimes 10, then back to 5, and it's kind of figuring out, I guess, on a practical and scientific way, what's working for you. And I think body weight plays a role in it as well. The amount you would naturally be producing and you're not producing, age is a major
Big time.
factor. So all of these things, there's no, I don't think there's a prescribed way to really do it, but you've got to figure out, given your activity, given why you're taking it, what time at night you need to take it, your body weight. If you've been doing exercise, whether you've had a stressful work day, there's so many parameters to really figure out.
Yeah.
But on a more, I think, really interesting level, you were sharing a story with me earlier, which I'd love you to share with the audience out there, if you're comfortable to, about one of your clients and the effect of sleep. And so I'm talking about this only because melatonin is something that my wife and I used to get into a good sleep cycle, and we had certain issues which we had to deal with, and the story which you referred to, I think, really hit home, at least with me.
I think about a year back, we had a client who was having a difficult time falling asleep and staying asleep. So she had a minimum of 3 disruptions a night, and it would take her 2 hours to fall asleep.
Wow.
Which is a really long time.
And very frustrating.
Very frustrating, very, anxiety fueling as well.
It is.
So this is what she came to us with. She had also recently gotten married. So a lot of changes happening
That's
her.
Never stressful. It's very relaxing.
Very, very relaxing indeed. So yeah, so she was going through a lot of changes in her personal life, and was having a hard time falling asleep.
Yep.
And along with that, she was also, for a good 7-8 months, she and her husband were trying to have a baby.
Okay.
So she had not approached us for a reform in like infertility as such. Her only issue was that she was not sleeping on time. She was awake too long, and sleep was quite inconsistent. But as we worked together, as we regularized her sleep, as we trained her to fall asleep within the 11 p.m. to 12 a.m. window.
Yeah.
When that started to happen, first that, when her bedtime became solid, the first breakthrough happened that her disruptions fell.
Wow.
So this was also interesting for us, that making your bedtime consistent by itself can reduce the number of sleep disruptions you go through at night.
Right.
Because the body is able to transition from one sleep cycle to the next more continuously. So this happened within the first 2 weeks of making changes. But then after we were done with the whole program, and she was happy with the way she was sleeping, and she left. 3 months later, she called me up to tell me that she had managed to get pregnant, and she was so happy.
Wow.
And she specified that the only change that she has made so far is in the way she improved her sleep, and also how she fixed timings for her meals, her exercise, and her work.
Yeah.
So it's not just sleep. Sleep is just 1/3 of a bigger cycle.
Routine, yeah.
And she managed to regularize it, and that created the change. So,
You know, you've touched upon something that, I mean, firstly, I love hearing stories like that. Like for me, it's inspirational, and it's just so positive. You know, you fixed someone's sleep, and she's also, of course, corrected certain aspects of the way she was running her life, and the results are phenomenal. They're transforming, and a lot about what we'd love to talk about and what we are about as a, I guess, as a company, and also as an ethos. B is all about doing those small things right. It's so simple. You know, sleep right, eat at the same time, eat the right things, and all of these positive things come from it. And it's just not complicated. And um, I there's it's just such a powerful message to put out there. You know, just do these things correctly, and you will see such tremendous benefits. You don't need medications. You don't need to go to the doctors. You don't need to do all of these things that unnecessarily we complicate our lives with. Just do the things that your body needs you to do, and it'll do everything you want it to do, if that makes sense. I've become famous for a saying with my friends and family that you just look at the left side of the equation, focus on it, and the right will take care of itself. And this is exactly the kind of thing that the example that I love to put out there. So that's fantastic, and that must have made you feel amazing, I'm sure.
it did. We were not expecting such a change to happen, but it did, and it, like my client was just happier beyond measure, and because for someone who's going through fertility challenges, it's anyway a very tough journey, and to get better health without really aiming for it by just fixing sleep, that's such a big bonus. It feels rewarding on another level. So that happened, and like that we've seen changes happen on so many unexpected levels altogether. Like I remember there was another client of mine. She approached us when she was going through a breakup. This was like a fresh breakup. So usually what happens is when we go through loss, whether it's financial, personal, on any level, sleep dysregulates for the first few days.
Okay.
It's because it's a part of a response to trauma of some sort.
Very interesting.
So, this very ambitious and very type A personality person, this girl came to us sharing, she basically shared with me that it was taking her 4 hours to fall asleep because she couldn't stop replaying the thoughts in her mind. So she would not fall asleep before 3 a.m. And she really wanted to change her sleep. That's also, what we look for as a trait in people who we work with. How willing are they to...
Yeah, the wish and want.
Right.
To make that change.
Correct. How much are they really ready to change themselves or even meet themselves halfway to really change their sleep? So we started working together, and while we worked on sleep, she was able to process her breakup in a more efficient manner. The intrusive thoughts that happen at bedtime, as is more common than we realize, they stopped coming up altogether. And that made me realize that so many people try to control their mind, their thoughts through practices like meditation. If you just improve your pre-sleep routine, sometimes that's enough to bring a change in your mindset as well. So on a psychological level, physiologically, a lot of transformations can happen if you start to discipline yourself with respect to sleep.
I think a lot of us suffer from that. I mean, again, personal examples, at the end of a night, you sort of replay your day, and you tend to see the things that didn't go right and things you didn't do and you could have done. And I found that a lot of negative thoughts would come to me at nighttime. So it was a simple practice of 5 things that you're grateful for today. And
really works.
That's something which I now prescribe to, and only having positive thoughts before I sleep. And it somehow helped me it helped induce sleep, basically. So I think that's a fab example. And I've got two questions that come from what you just said. One is, we referred to the circadian rhythm maybe 20, 30 times right now. And in fact, I
Right.
think you've got a great.
I have a very strong opinion on the circadian
So
rhythm.
for those who might not be able to see it, it says, "Don't
Yeah.
fuck with my circadian rhythm," which is fab. Now, tell us, in a very simplistic sense, what is the circadian rhythm?
So to understand what is the circadian rhythm, we'll first understand how our organs function.
Okay.
Let's say our organs had a personality. Okay, let's assume that our stomach has a certain personality. So the stomach loves to follow a timetable.
Yeah.
Which means that it loves to wake up, it loves to work within a certain time of the day, and then it loves to rest or sleep. So all our organs, they follow a timetable, which means that they love to do certain activities
At
in
certain times.
certain times of the day.
Yeah.
And this sequence of activities repeats every 24 hours. And this is what our organs love doing. They love to execute all their tasks in a specific order,
Yeah.
and repeat that order after every 24 hours.
Would it be fair to just add to that it's a particular order of things that they're doing, and they like specificity of time. So at the same time, every day
Yeah.
makes a tremendous difference to how they are performing.
Yes. So, not like they like to perform specific functions within fixed time windows,
Yes.
which are generally 2 hours long. So within a fixed 2 hour window, your stomach will be able to perform specific functions to its optimum. So that way, all our organs have ideal time windows for functioning, and they love to follow that sequence. Like you said, they're very particular about the sequence in which events are happening.
Right.
So the whole sequence of actions repeats after every 24 hours.
Okay.
And that's what we call a circadian rhythm. It means that your stomach is in a circadian rhythm that repeats after 24 hours.
And what would be, I guess, the the pros of having the rhythm in its correct fashion or functioning at its optimum, versus the negatives of the same?
So if we, if we put it in a broad sense,
Mhm.
if you are following your body's circadian rhythm, your chances of developing diseases drops. You're by default choosing to be healthier as a person. If you're not following it, you're choosing to create disease in the present or later on. Like,
And we're talking about serious diseases. We're not talking about just something lightweight. You're talking about even propensity towards cancer or to heart attacks, and
it could be, yeah.
that level. Can it get to that kind of seriousness if we're not looking after ourselves?
So we are still not sure whether a life, like what we do know is that in a lot of lifestyle based disorders like PCOS, diabetes,
Right.
cardiac disorders as well,
Right.
a misaligned circadian rhythm does play a role. In fact, it has been seen so far that if you delay your circadian rhythm, delay the timings of your meals or your sleep by just 2 hours, that's going to lead to weight gain within a month.
Wow.
So, as a tendency, you are more likely to develop diseases just by not following the rhythm of your body, which is basically the circadian rhythm. And the reverse is also true. It's sort of like karma. Okay, you listen,
Yeah.
you do what your
Yeah.
body wants,
It's a
and
great-
it rewards you manifolds.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah.
You don't do what it wants, or you do an action that is harmful in some way, it's going to punish you manifolds
I think
later
it's
on.
really, really good way to put it. I mean, it's something that's going to stick in my mind for sure. And from a you're of course a professional in this field. I'm not a professional. I'm someone who's trying to figure things out. And with, I think, at least if I was out there listening to what we're talking about, I'd want to know how to correct my rhythm and what's the best way to do it. And my personal part in all of this is I set my rhythm as best possible by sleeping early. By sleeping early, I mean 10 o'clock, getting up early. As soon as I get up, I will move into a form of exercise. And straight after I've exercised, I'll then eat something. So I'm making sure my body gets light quite early. I'm making sure my body gets into a state of exercise early.
Yeah.
And getting the first meal set at a very specific time. So all of these things then help me set that routine of exhausting myself during the day, of course, but getting that rhythm to the point in which I'm naturally falling asleep at that time, naturally waking up because my body's now used to getting light at that time. My body's used to getting food at that time,
Right.
and there's an exercise component. So this is how some of the things which I've focused on. My question is, are these the right things to do, and what more can one do to help fix that circadian rhythm?
The way that you have fixed timings for your meals, for your work, exercise, everything, that's a great, that's the most practical way of training your circadian rhythm to remain uniform,
Okay.
for it to not become irregular in a way that it creates side effects. But if there's anyone out there who, feels lost or is not able to have that agency on, different circadian levers or lifestyle factors like, meal timings, work timings, etc., a very good place to start to learn is by listening to the body, whatever it shares as cues.
Okay.
For example, cues of hunger. When are you feeling that urge to eat? Cues for sleep. When are you naturally feeling sleepy? So often we are completely oblivious of what our body is also trying to say. And because we're not in touch with that, it's hard to know whether is this a good time to sleep or not.
I mean, that's something which I'll ask you a question which I've not yet found the answer. The research I've done and from personal experience, we talk about now feeling sleepy post-lunch. So the concept of a nap. In certain countries, like Spain, a siesta is considered to be healthy, normal, and
Right.
the entire day is built
Around it.
around that siesta. I've found that in literature, a nap is something that works against your circadian rhythm because you are sleeping at a time that it's actually daylight, nighttime is not there, and therefore you're doing something that's counterintuitive. I've also read that having that 20, 30, 40-minute or even an hour nap helps with the energy levels and gets you through the day and so on and so forth. So what's your opinion on that, and what's best in this regard for the circadian rhythm?
Like you shared how people in Spain, they like to take a nap. It's also common practice here in India. Based on these observations, there were two terms that were made: monophasic sleep and biphasic sleep.
Okay.
So far, we know that both forms are they're not harmful in theory, but yeah. So let's first understand what they mean. Monophasic sleep basically means that you cover your entire sleep duration in one go at night. Biphasic sleep is when you divide it into two halves,
Okay.
where one half is longer, the other one is shorter. So both forms of sleep are not particularly harmful. There can be certain situations where biphasic sleep, which basically means that you're taking a nap in the day, it becomes counterproductive. That can only happen if the duration of your nap is too long, or if it's too close to your bedtime.
Okay.
How, also the timing is crucial. To have that nap in the afternoon is a better idea because at that time, your body is anyway not producing much of melatonin. That melatonin production only starts around 7.
Yep.
So sleep pressure does not get disrupted anyway. And if you're feeling tired, if you're feeling groggy, not alert enough, that nap can really help with cognitive
ability
optimizations and make you feel more energetic. So a short nap of 20 minutes is fine as long as you're able to get enough rest out of it. Um, then again, there's no one size fits all.
So there's no, I guess, fixed time for a nap or hours for a nap, but from what I'm understanding, I guess that's sort of post lunch, maybe an hour is the maximum time you should be in having a nap, or you can stretch till 3, 4, 5 p.m. What's your last, I guess, advice for everyone out there on this point?
As a rule of thumb, if there is an 8-hour gap between a nap and bedtime,
Okay.
that's a safe timing. So let's say if your bedtime is 10 p.m., by 2 p.m., you can take a nap and it's not going to interfere with sleep at all. So that's how you should be thinking about timing your naps.
I've definitely learned something from this conversation. That's I'm going to use that for sure. Okay, on to the second question I had, which was quite a while back. I'm hardcore now into analyzing my sleep and understanding what each of those different phases are and why we have them. So, two questions for you within that question. One is, what are the different aspects to a sleep cycle, and how many sleep cycles should we have each night?
So if we look at a sleep cycle, which is basically how the body transitions from light into deeper sleep stages, is a cycle that goes on throughout the night.
Okay.
A sleep cycle has 4 different stages in it, which are made up of non-REM and REM sleep.
Okay.
So we won't go into non-REM and REM, what they are about, but what we can talk about is the 4 stages of sleep. So the first 2 stages, they make up the light sleep. If you look at your sleep tracker, there'll be a parameter called light sleep.
Yep.
So light sleep is majorly for helping you to transition into deeper stages of sleep.
And that's what normally, I think, 20 minutes or so, or is that a little bit longer?
Yes. So for the first cycle, it's around 20 minutes.
Okay.
Eventually, the duration of light sleep also becomes shorter and shorter. Okay. Generally, if you look at the whole sleep process, the first 4 hours are focusing on physical recovery.
Okay.
That's when deep sleep happens in bigger chunks. The last 4 hours are more about mental recovery. That's when REM cycles get longer and longer. So either ways, it's crucial to get both the halves of the night.
Okay.
Coming back to the sleep cycle, the first 2 stages of sleep are for light sleep. Then we come to deep sleep. Deep sleep is the deepest stage of sleep. It's when the body is recovering itself. Physical recovery is happening to its best capacity. Growth hormone secretion,
Detoxification, I think.
detoxification processes,
Yep.
muscle recovery.
Yep.
This is what deep sleep provides as benefits, and it's crucial for you to make sure that deep sleep isn't shortening in its duration.
So this is when I'm helping to build these muscles of mine. That's the restoration time which I need.
Yes. In fact, for muscle protein synthesis, it's important that you're getting enough deep sleep every night. Ideally, it should be around 25% of your total sleep duration. So around 2 hours, on an average, you should be spending in deep sleep. Again, the duration varies. Sometimes it's 1.5 hours. It can also be 2.5 hours. But within that bracket is how much it should be. After deep sleep comes REM sleep.
Okay.
So within REM sleep is when mental recovery becomes a focus. A lot of information processing, creative thinking, problem solving, all of these get prioritized, and all the activity that was focused into the physical body, that shifts towards the brain when REM sleep is happening.
So it's kind of for your cognitive acuity or cognitive recovery. That's kind of what you're seeing in the REM sleep.
Yes. It's crucial for optimum brain functioning.
Okay.
So how you feel when you wake up, how well are you able to handle problems, and how reactive you are to them. All of that is decided by how much of REM sleep you get every night.
I'm going to ask you, I think, an out there question which just came to mind. There are times when, and it even happened with the name for me, there's a problem that the mind is focused on. One falls asleep and you get up at a certain time in the morning and boom, the answer's sitting and waiting. Can you tell me which part of the sleep cycle that happens in? Or does that actually happen? Or is it this just something that it's a wives' tale or whatever you want to say?
So that sort of a eureka moment usually happens right after REM sleep ends.
Okay.
From REM, we go into wakefulness.
Yep.
So if you wake up right after REM sleep, there's a very high chance you'll have an idea or you'll have a solution. And it's something that's been going on for a very long time, to an extent that creative thinkers,
Yep.
scientists have actually tried to hack REM sleep.
Wow.
Like Thomas Edison would, he would hold beads in his hand. He would sit in a chair and just try to sleep. And then he would time himself in a way
Really?
that he knew that if the beads fell off his hand, he would wake up.
That's sin.
And he started noticing more ideas coming up as soon as he would wake up. So a lot of people have also tried to hack into REM sleep this way, and it does help with trying to think beyond what's in front of you. So the real doorway to better thinking is, it's through optimized REM sleep.
Wow, that's genuinely fascinating. Wow, which you've used a word which personally I'm not a fan of, which is hack. But taking that terminology forward, how would you tell the audience out there, the listeners who are here, what's 3 or 4 hacks to help us achieve a better sleep and be better thinkers and be better on our feet? And what are those 3 or 4 hacks straight off the cuff you'd suggest?
The first hack that works the best, has the best returns in terms of improving sleep quality, is consistency. So if you have no idea how to improve sleep and you really want to do that, make your bedtime window as consistent as possible. And by window, I mean a 90-minute period within which you know that sleep will naturally be induced by your body.
Okay.
So like, you've trained yourself to fall asleep within a very concise window. That's also a good approach, and it has worked for you.
Yeah.
But there are some people out there for whom fixing a time gets really hard.
It's very tough, yeah.
It's tough. So an easier place to start doing that is to set a 90-minute time window. That's the first thing. Then the second thing that is crucial is to create space in your routine for minimum 7 hours of sleep. So that's a practical goal that can be easily achieved. You ideally should not be thinking that I need to sleep 8 hours. You should know that this is your sleep window. It has to happen in this time. So that kind of mental allocation is crucial for a sleep routine to stick. And within that window, let your body get in as much sleep as it wants. A lot of people like to set morning alarms to wake up. A healthier approach would be to set an alarm for a later time and watch your body wake up earlier than that.
Yeah, I do this. That's why I'm smiling. I wake up 20-30 minutes before my alarm clock.
Right. So that's how you're waking up by yourself. Yes. And your body is ready to wake up.
Yep.
So that's something that people should try out, and they should, the dependency on an alarm should be minimum.
Absolutely.
I think another practice that really helps is sunlight exposure.
Yep.
As soon as you wake up in the morning, if you're exposed to sunlight for as short a duration as 10 minutes, that can also improve the sleep pressure you feel at bedtime. So by itself, this has happened. We still don't know how exactly is sunlight doing that. But if you expose yourself to it in the morning, it's going to boost serotonin levels, improving your mental state naturally. It's going to boost alertness. And because it's also going to make you slightly more warm, heat also helps build alertness and it helps in waking up the body in general.
Right.
So to really, take the benefit of your environment, change it in a way that you sleep better and you wake up better. That's something everyone can do and should do if, you know, especially if they're clueless with sleep. So I would say these are the three best places to start working on sleep.
I'm going to add one more to your three, which is uh, if you're going to exercise and you're going to train, the morning, if you train and work out and do your sports, whatever, first thing in the morning,
Yes.
I found that also helps me sleep better at night rather than doing my workout in the evenings, which I always felt more comfortable at the end of the day to go to the gym. But through shifting that to the morning, just by the time I reach 8, 9, 10 o'clock, I'm so ready to sleep because I've, I think timed it right, that the body's winding down in the right way. So that's only one thing I guess I'd add to the three fab suggestions you've put out there.
And I actually agree to, what you've shared in terms of exercising in the morning. In most cases, that also boosts performance in the exercise itself. That's because you're leveraging the cortisol that's already
Exactly.
being secreted by the body.
Exactly.
If you train while your cortisol awakening response is already happening,
Yep.
which means that your cortisol is building up already,
Yep.
that's just going to make it easier for you to
Yep.
perform to your best.
Yeah. And I mean, it's a fact. Since I've been training in the morning, I'm lifting at least 25-30% more
Oh, wow.
than I was at nighttime. And it's like a substantial increase, which I'm seeing. I mean, and this happened immediately within 3-4 days of training in the morning. I'm hitting, personal records on a consistent basis compared to the evening sessions. So, and then of course the other positive is by the evening I'm not sort of reactivating my whole body and waking it up and doing that whole stress situation again.
There's actually a big challenge that comes with a lot of people, especially those who work out in the evenings. If your evening cortisol level is higher than than the healthy concentration as per science,
Yep.
that directly impacts sleep onset. And when evening cortisol gets higher, that's when sleep disruptions happen more frequently. So it's actually better to avoid workouts in the evening.
So I guess it's fair to say that, or correct me if I'm wrong, cortisol and melatonin are literally working in opposite directions. So you have the cortisol production starting in the morning and reducing at night, which is what you want. You have melatonin being produced at night and reducing in the mornings as you wake up.
Yes. They are, they're like shift workers.
Yep.
Morning shift is for cortisol, and cortisol is crucial in the morning. We don't realize it as much.
Yeah.
And evening time is for melatonin to, to do its job.
Yeah.
And it's so surprising that their roles as hormones, it doesn't end there. If you look at gut health and how cortisol and melatonin change gut health,
Yes.
even there, their role is complementary.
Yes.
So let's say if excessive cortisol changes or, destroys gut composition,
Right.
melatonin does the exact opposite.
Right.
It restores it.
Right.
It restores the gut barrier, which means that more good bacteria are able to stay inside
Yes.
for longer. So they're like very, they're like villain and hero from a movie. One is always trying to, create some sort of disruption. The other solves it.
One's Gulshan Grover, the other's Hrithik Roshan.
Yeah, you can say that, yeah.
But I was reading an article several weeks ago, so I'm not entirely sure about the accuracy of what I've remembered. If you are, you're losing on an hour, 2 hours of sleep in a night, within 48 hours, your gut, the microbes in your gut start getting affected. So the impact happens that quickly. From just sleeping 1 or 2 hours less, the ability for your gut to hold those good bacteria you're speaking about starts dropping. Is that correct? As a percentage? I mean, as a thought from what I remember.
I think as a timeline, it is realistic enough because a single night of sleep loss is enough to disrupt cortisol production. So that there's this HPA axis, which is hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis, which controls how much cortisol is going to be there the next day.
Okay.
So if you're sleeping less on one night, that gets disrupted. Now, if cortisol is high within one night of sleep deprivation, that itself creates domino effects, and that reaches the gut eventually. So it's very much possible that within 2 days there will be an unexpected gut issue coming up. Sometimes people feel it from day one of sleep loss. If you sleep less by just 1 hour, you wake up with constipation, or you wake up with some or the other issue related to the gut as well. Very likely, primarily because of the way cortisol
Operates.
operates. Yeah.
So, I mean, I was amazed with the sort of having, the multiple coffees at night. And there's also this cappuccino, raat ko jate, coffee pite. And at least for me in the UK, it was coffee is the morning drink. It's not an evening drink. Do you think that plays a role in some of the issues that people have a sleep problem with here in India? Do you think that's part of it? This sort of culture of having coffees at night?
It definitely does to a certain extent. When it comes to sleep, the reason why so many people in India are now developing insomnia or other sleep disorders is because at the core of our culture, sleep has never been a priority. If we look at Europe, if we look at other parts of the world, the way that they look at rest and sleep is very different. On their list, sleep is way higher as a priority.
It is.
But when we talk about India, our attitude is so focused on hustle, on being active, on getting fit, on earning money, on working, on doing. So we're always on the go.
Yep.
To an extent that today, even if you look at a child who's sleeping for longer than usual, the parents' first instinct would be, he's lazy today. It wouldn't be that
Usko utha do.
usko utha do. There's something wrong with sleeping extra. So we don't have a culture that's sleep conscious.
I mean, even something as simple as, for us in the UK, dinner was 6, 7 p.m. latest. Here to 9, 10 baje to it is normal dinner at 9, 10. Now, how can you eat at 9, 10 p.m. and then sleep at 10? You can't. So automatically you're pushing yourself to midnight and et cetera, et cetera. So I think you're right. It's not part of the culture here that sleeping is something you need to build your day around.
That's true. In fact, in India, what comes in the way of sleep more often than health is the social structure that we live in. If you are living in a household, you're part of a system that by default will make you change your sleep habits. For example, if we look at men are expected to start working at a certain time. They're expected to fix their time routine in a way that they're also prioritizing their family, getting chores done. Everything has to be done to support the social structure that we live in. If you look at women, women are supposed to get up early to get kids ready, get their tiffins ready, get everything done. And in that process, the sleep that a woman cuts, nobody talks about it. Most often women, when they wake up, especially mothers, they wake up with a sense of frustration that they haven't been able to sleep well
enough, yeah.
But they have no other option but to get past it and start the day. So this is a part of the habit system that we have built. We want to support the society, and in that process, if sleep is going for a toss, it just happens.
I think, if I can summarize that, it's a case of a culture being very much non-selfish in nature. We're sort of trying to look after everyone else. And in that, we're kind of losing some of the key things we should be doing for ourselves and our own health.
I think this could also be because India, like the Indian society is more communal and less individualized.
Yes, exactly.
We don't really respect our individual needs as much as other cultures do. Because sleep is such a personal need, it's not addressed as much.
Yeah. And would you say there's a difference between the uh, I guess the tier one, tier two, tier three cities in terms of their sleeping habits and how that's working across India right now?
There's a stark difference in the way that a tier one city approaches sleep as compared to tier two. Um, tier one generally is more sleep conscious. Let's look at an example. All of us have a family member that snores. It could be an uncle, a mom, or a dad. Right? We all have one member.
Yep.
A person in a tier one city would be more um, concerned about that snoring to a point that he or she will take that family member who snores to the doctor. So snoring will be treated. Tier 2 city person might not be as prompt in um, trying to improve or treat snoring. It will more be like something you talk about in a conversation. Oh, you know, Dadaji ko fir kharate aa rahe hain. It's like a part of our dialogue
Yeah.
in India.
Yeah.
So that is, it's actually concerning how snoring is, it's considered a personality trait when it's actually a health issue.
Yeah.
So the difference really shows up in how a tier one city person, how quickly uh, they're concerned about sleep problems and they take action. Tier two cities, they don't pick it up as much.
And do you think the sleep problem is more prevalent in tier one versus tier two versus tier three, or it's sort of ubiquitous or unanimous across all three? We're sort of all of India is having sleep issues, or is it sort of city specific or lifestyle specific?
It's really hard uh,
Generalize.
to generalize in India because we don't even have measures in place to track sleep. How are people sleeping? But there are multiple uh, alarming tendencies that India has where sleep is deep prioritized to such an extent that it's glorified. So a person who's sleeping 6 hours, some people look up to him. Like just sleeping 5 hours is a flex in itself.
Yes, it's true.
It's a sign that you're hustling in life when it's actually the worst thing you can do to your body, and it really sets you up for failure in the long run.
I mean, even for a lot of guys, it's like, hey man, I slept 2 hours and I'm still doing what I'm doing. And it is a flex. I think it's true. Absolutely. Yeah.
People think they can get by on less sleep, and like as someone who comes across these sleep beliefs so often, I get clients who will mention that, okay, let's say Modi ji is sleeping 4 hours, he's doing fine.
Yeah.
So of course I can also do this, and that further ruins the kind of relationship we have with sleep. And
I agree, and I've seen there was an advert which had The Rock in it. I think it was an Apple ad, if I'm not wrong, sorry. And it was showing him doing multitasking. In 3 p.m. he's in New York, and 6 p.m. he's now in Las Vegas, so he's in the gym, and the whole thing was he's at it 24/7 and he's sleeping only a few hours, and he's at it consistently and constantly. And it's putting out a message that it's cool, and it's something to flex over, that you can do all of these things, and sleep is something that's taking away from your productivity. When actually it's the opposite. If you sleep well, you're far more productive. If you sleep less, you're less productive. And this sort of message of sleep less and more productive, as far as I'm concerned, from personal experience, different ages, you can do different things. And there comes a point in time when it's certainly counterintuitive and counterproductive to be sleeping less and thinking you're going to be more productive. It's not the case. You mentioned about sleep tracking just now. I have one on right as we speak, and I track over normally a week or 2 week period. I track my sleep, I track my activity, and so on and so forth. From your professional perspective, how much importance do you assign to these sleep trackers? And is it something we should actually all be trying or utilizing, or just it's a gimmick?
I think from sleep coaching perspective, tracking does matter. But what really decides whether a sleep tracker will be beneficial for a person or not is, first of all, how does that person feel when they see that data?
Yep.
That
Yes.
that significantly changes sleep directly. Like there was a study done where there were 10 people who were made to use sleep trackers. Actually, no, there were 10 people who had their sleep trackers, on their wrists all the time. Another 10 people who had sleep trackers that were manipulated. So the second lot, which was having sleep trackers that showed fewer hours of sleep than actual sleep, they would wake up feeling demoralized, and
Yeah.
in the long run that actually shortened their sleep duration.
Yeah.
So what kind of a relationship you have with sleep tracking data is crucial to how much is it going to help you. And if that is a healthy relationship in the way that the data does not change your self-image or your identity, then it's good to use it, because that information is important. It's essential. And if you are in a healthy relationship with sleep tracking, to measure your sleep data once a week, have a look at the trends in
Yep.
different sleep stages. How much is your average deep sleep, REM sleep? That's a good habit. It's a part of sleep hygiene, you can say. Should be done. Not even too frequently. You don't have to look at sleep data every day.
Yeah.
But once a week is good, the way that you're doing it.
I mean, I I got to this kind of thinking with my sleep tracker because it's exactly what you said earlier. It started causing anxiety. Like I'd get up in the morning, the first thing I checked was how much I slept.
Right.
Yeah, I haven't slept enough deep sleep, and there's not, and that would play in my mind and actually get me anxious. So
Right.
this is when I was wearing it continuously for almost 2 months. I mean, the ring only left for charging, and it was back on my finger. When I realized it was having that effect, I reduced my propensity to watch it and see what the data was. And I realized that I just need to use this it's given me some data. I need to analyze the why this has happened, then correct what's necessary, and then leave it for a week or 2 weeks and see whether the corrections I've done have given me the result that I want. It's a very scientific approach to it. And of course, you'll never sort of analyzing these things. One, it's a testing and trying kind of situation. But I think from that perspective, it has helped me. But certainly there is that double-edged sword where this can actually work against you. So I think that's insightful, because as far as I'm concerned, even with my friends and family, the tracking of data and sleep data is just, I'm seeing it as an explosive trend right now. You know, people are really watching and trying to understand what is light, deep, REM, how can I increase it, and using these rings to sort of, or these watches or whatever it is, to analyze that data. But I think there's a disconnect between seeing that data and having a professional such as yourself say, guys, this data means this, and now you need to sort of correct on this. And that device is not going to fix your sleep cycle. Just because you wear it and check it every day, it doesn't mean it's going to get better. And somehow we lose that sort of connecting point.
I'll give you an example of where that disconnect comes. The rings, they're quite efficient in measuring sleep phases and other parts, but not all sleep trackers are that efficient. And there's such a grave mistake multiple sleep trackers make is in measuring sleep duration. The part of a sleep tracker that measures sleep duration is not always accurate as such, because a lot of times a person who is lying down in bed awake will be so still that the sleep tracker will think that he's asleep. So that way, the sleep tracker is going to add the time spent awake into the total sleep duration. So what data comes out becomes inaccurate, and this is such a big misguiding factor, because a lot of people think that they've been in bed for 8 hours, so they must have slept 8 hours, when actually they, in a realistic sense, they've only slept 6 hours. So these kinds of misinterpretations happen quite often, and what is really required is to have a person as a mediator between a sleep tracker and the user,
Yep.
who can help you interpret that data in a way that you can actually grow as a sleeper yourself.
Exactly. I mean, having someone such as yourself advise this is what you need to do, and also don't rely on this device to sort of give you your sense of happiness, or
Absolutely.
and there's something else which when you talked about from the lifestyle perspective, which I wanted to come back to. Both the UK and India predominantly enjoy a very healthy drinking culture.
Right.
First question for you is, do you drink?
I do. Of course I
Okay,
do.
okay. Then I can ask you the next question. How does alcohol affect sleep? And does it affect sleep?
Yes, it does, especially when it's had in the evening, when it's had most of it.
Morning would be a little bit worrying, but sure.
That's true.
Evening, yes.
Yeah. So if uh, another common tendency in India, common experience is people consuming alcohol right before bedtime in order to get into sleep.
Yeah.
That's
crazy.
That's the worst thing you can do for your sleep quality, because research has shown that just one glass of wine will drop your sleep quality by minimum 10%.
Wow.
And this range can be between 10 to 40%. So you can lose out on maximum 40% of your sleep quality if you have 3 drinks a night.
So I hope my friend Angela's watching this, because she takes in a lot of alcohol actually to help sleep. But yeah.
Yeah, so it's what it really does is that alcohol reduces REM sleep.
Okay.
The duration drops after one night of consumption. And when you're not getting enough of REM sleep is when mental recovery is compromised.
Do you have any sort of kind of percentage of, if you have alcohol, how much your REM sleep produces? Is there kind of, I mean, does the science or the research give a percentage, 10, 20, 30%, anything like that?
So I'm not aware about how that does affect REM sleep specifically. What we do know is that deep sleep and REM sleep, they tend to drop by a minimum 10% a night if you have one glass of wine. So that's how it really, impacts mental recovery. If a person is regularly drinking at night, they'll probably wake up with brain fog, headaches happening more often, and just more tired the next day.
I mean, alcohol also, leads to dehydration as well, which, and obviously that's not going to help you just sleep either.
That's true.
So the message is, don't drink before you sleep.
Don't drink before you sleep, and if you're drinking, try to put some gap between bedtime and the last alcoholic consumption you have. That being said, having it once in a while is also okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, a couple of questions to finish up. Give me 3 supplements that you would advise to the audience out there that helps people to sleep.
So what works the best from current research perspective, magnesium really helps. It helps with physical recovery.
Yep.
It helps in creating a comfortable physical state. If you have a lot of cramps, muscle cramps, which are often also a cause of sleep disruptions.
Yes.
If you have a lot of cramps in your legs, that can also wake you up. So magnesium helps reduce cramps. It also helps reduce sleep disruptions. It's strange that science is not sure exactly how is magnesium improving sleep quality, but there is an assumption, there's a hypothesis that it regulates both melatonin and cortisol levels. So that's how it supports sleep. Magnesium is, I think, somewhere between 180 to 350 mgs is a healthy concentration to have.
If I remember some of the research I did on magnesium, its effect is twofold. One is it combines with the GABA receptors in the brain.
It does.
And then you have sort of a period of time where then that induces relaxation into the muscles. And that's what helps to induce sleep. I've also read about and personally experienced that it just helps with maintaining sleep. So I've
Yeah.
used melatonin to get me to sleep. I've used magnesium to help me maintain that sleep and recovery from training. Um, so that's my experience with
Mm.
magnesium as well.
Also, because magnesium is important for melatonin production, that's another way it supports
I didn't know that.
sleep onset and staying in sleep. So magnesium for sure is useful.
Okay, that's one.
Yeah, that's one. The second could be chamomile tea,
Okay,
because chamomile tea has flavonoids in it, which are again relaxing in nature. So you want to calm your nervous system down by the end of the day. It's a great way to have chamomile tea because it's also non-addictive in nature. Other than that, melatonin supplements can also be considered as long as it's not a strong dosage
Yep.
and the ingredients of the supplement, they're of good quality.
Yep.
So it's very important as a conscious consumer to not pick up any supplement that's in the market.
absolutely.
People should really do the research, read at the back, okay, what all is there, how much melatonin is present, which other compounds are there, and then decide on, which one to take. So melatonin is also good for sleep onset. If you want to build sleep pressure, it's going to help. Start off with lower doses and experiment, observe what is working out for you and what's not.
Good. So, in summary, magnesium, chamomile, and melatonin are the three
Yes.
products that you would suggest or as a supplement to help with sleep. Great. Okay. I think all that's really left to say is thank you very, very much for your time today. I can safely say that I wish I'd had a sleep coach like you when I had my sleep problems. And the advice that you've given us and the wisdom that you've shared with us, I hope for the audience out there, they get a chance to listen to this podcast and, of course, learn, I think, a huge amount of information that can help them have better sleep and therefore a better life. I think my tagline to so many people is, there's always the happy wife, happy life,
Yeah.
and then better sleep and also a happier life is the second thing I would say. So it plays a massive role. I've had the negative effects of lack of sleep. And I'm enjoying the positive effects of good sleep. So genuinely, thank you for your time and sharing your knowledge with all of us. And for everyone out there, I would love for you to have a look at this podcast, listen to everything that Chhavi has shared with us, and of course, jump onto her you have to cut that. Jump onto her Instagram handle, which is
the Indian Sleep Coach.
So I'll start again. I'd love for you to jump onto Chhavi's Instagram handle, the Indian Sleep Coach. There's fabulous information there as well, and a lot for us all to learn. So Chhavi, thank you again for sharing the couch with us, and we look forward to seeing you again in the future.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks.
Yeah.